Hello there, and welcome to JagaVision, episode 77. I'm Jared Nyberg. I'm co-owner of JagaSilk. You can check out our episodes on YouTube. We're broadcasting to YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. If you're checking us out on Facebook, Twitch, wherever you are, you can also join us in the chat room if you want to ask questions, etc. You can check out old episodes, like I was just talking to our guest who's going to join me shortly about having Mr. Chen on from Phoenix Mountain. That was pretty exciting. We have farmers live from Origin quite often on the show. We have wonderful folks from different industries. Generally, it's the tea and coffee industry. But we even have an episode where we had the owner of a courier company that does electric cars, and we were doing electric cars and tea, and that was a really fun episode. Lots of stuff to check out. Everything's archived on our youtube.com/JagaSilk if you want to go there, or you can link to it from our webpage, jagasilk.com. Today I have Kevin, I hope I'm not making his last name, saying it incorrectly, but Gascoigne, I think I'll have to ask him. He's one of the owners of Camellia Sinensis Tea House over in Montreal. He's one of my absolute. He has one of my absolute favorite companies in the tea industry. It's just a huge inspiration. I'm also the director or co-director of the International Tea Appreciation Society, and he joined me and the other director, Ryan, on our 24-hour live stream last year. And there's a possibility he might be able to join us again this year on the 13th of November. And anyways, without further ado, Kevin, are you there?
I'm right here.
You are right there. Okay, so, okay, amazing. So we are having you on the first time for JagaVision, but the second time we've actually had a chance to have a discussion. So, but for our viewers who don't know anything about what you do, could you maybe let them know what's Camellia Sinensis all about, and who's Kevin?
Well, I'm a tea geek who got into writing about tea and then buying and selling tea. I now am part of the group of tea tasters that own Camellia Sinensis. We have a company based in Montreal. We source around 200 teas each year. Everything is directly from origin, directly from the producer himself or herself, and imported directly to us. Our catalog changes continually, so the clients have to get used to that. We follow the seasons. We buy small batches. When they're finished, they're finished. You have to wait for the next one or try something else. Around that catalog, we've developed all sorts of different arms that have developed in different directions. We've got wholesale, we've got publications of various types. We have education, we do a lot of workshops and so on. And we have, of course, there we go, there's one of our publications. And we also now produce our own tea in our little experimental factory in the south of India, which we call the Tea Studio.
Which is
so all sorts. I've probably forgotten a few things.
Sure.
But we do a little bit of everything from the garden to the cup.
Garden to cup. So how
and we
long
drink a lot of tea.
I imagine. I imagine tea, professional tea taster. Does it ever? I have days where I feel great because of it, and I have days where I don't feel so great because of it. But I think it's generally, has to do with my, I guess, where I'm at in my life at that moment. It comes and goes in waves. This is
yeah.
But you're
we're lucky to work in such a wholesome industry.
Yeah, we are.
It's such a beautiful product.
I actually have a friend in the coffee industry, and I love coffee as well as I love wine and cheese, but I find that I can handle tea, and I love tea in a way that it just I don't know. Maybe I can just consume more of it without it being perceptively as damaging, and I feel like it's a healing thing for me. But I'm sure there's always. You can always have too much of a good thing, but
you don't hear a lot of people talking about the spirit of coffee.
But we do joke about it. He's 3 days younger than me, and he looks 10 years, 20 years older than me. Like gray, and I'm 39. Hey,
and he's the spirit of coffee.
Apparently. The 3 children might have something to do with it, but I don't know. But yeah, no, it's pretty funny though. Okay, so you, if I remember from our talk last time, we had a really good cup of Darjeeling, and that was very memorable for me.
Hmm.
And we went through a little bit about how you specialize and how cool it is that and I really encourage people to check out the show. I don't want to necessarily rehash everything that we went through, but it was really fun to just talk about how you were able to overcome some of the challenges of sourcing during the pandemic due to the long, very developed relationships that you have with the tea farmers.
Yeah.
And I think we both hoped at the time that we would be able to visit Origin in the coming year. And I don't know about
Hmm.
you, but that's not been in the books for us. Have you?
No, it didn't happen this year.
Yeah.
I broke my almost 30-year consecutive visits due to the pandemic. I've missed 2 years now, 2 seasons.
Isn't that just so?
We don't. It's tough. It's tough when it's part of your annual rhythm
Mm,
and your annual beat, and that's all my partners have found the same. They found it difficult. And complicated in some logistic ways, but also in uh, personal rhythm of life. It changes things.
right. Yeah.
But we'll see what happens next year. To be honest, at the moment, India's not looking too good.
No. No,
But
it's not.
I'm going to give myself till January, February, and we'll see what's going on. But
It's
at the
because.
moment, it's not looking too hopeful.
And for those watching who don't know, generally speaking, India is the first country to produce the new harvest teas, that are of like substantial volume. Those first flushes are end of
Hmm.
January, maybe mid-February. At the latest, we're talking end of February, right? So you're,
A little later than that.
yeah, okay,
Usually the really good stuff's coming in the last weeks of March.
okay. Correct me. Yes,
Yeah.
amazing. So
Well,
yeah,
there are some gardens that flush in February,
okay,
but they're either low growns or artificially pushed into flushing
I
with
see.
irrigation and
All that stuff. Try and get
strange
ahead of the
mixes that they put
bandwagon.
on the garden. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, that's not
Earl-
as
But
exciting.
as you know, early isn't always the best.
Definitely not. I think there's
Yeah.
with Chinese teas too. There's too much of a fact. We were just talking about this with one of our guests from Tecan, a
Hmm.
subscription-based company out of Vancouver, last week, and just talking about forcing things with pre-Qingming selections and out of China,
Yeah.
and how that can
Yeah.
be a little bit problematic, where it seems to be more about the harvest date than it has to do with the quality of the tea.
Exactly. You can stimulate growth
Mhm.
very early in the year, either using chemicals or using artificial irrigation.
Right. I mean, it can be
But
definitely indicative of the area as well, like you were saying, a lower elevation or even just a
or
different.
low elevation. Yeah, yeah. And there is a skirt of Darjeeling that is low elevation,
Mm,
not necessarily quality,
but it's there.
um, but they flush early. Yeah,
I always talk about how interesting it is, like Nepalese teas, where they are ready. Their first flush is ready when the second flushes are ready in Darjeeling, and they
hmm,
have to
yeah,
sell them as second flushes, even though they're first flushes, because
yeah.
otherwise it doesn't move in Calcutta, which is kind of it's kind
That's
of
true.
sad. It's lamentable. I think it'd be. Oh, I don't understand why
Yes,
there's just
and
such an
that's going to get
obsession.
more complicated because of new restrictions on Nepalese tea going into India. We'll see
Ah,
how that see where that goes in the coming months too.
right. Yeah, Japan is where we've focused a lot of our energy, and definitely you go down south and teas are ready in April. But
Hmm.
you go to sort of the more famous regions like Kyoto, and you're looking at a late May, early June harvest, especially on
That's right.
the more
Yeah,
specialized
yeah,
teas. So
yeah.
it's interesting. It
So
doesn't necessarily
it's
mean
a little
a
more summer than spring.
yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean a bad tea. Like you can get
Of
like
course not. Of course
you
not.
can choose your cultivar, and you can choose your landscape to produce good teas in different regions, right? So it is, I think it
Well,
is
one of the
possible.
things I use as an example of how the tea industry is actually in flux. It's not a static situation. It's moving all the time and
Mm,
changing continually with developing techniques and developing cultivars and so on.
sure.
Is that a lot of regions are producing fantastic autumn teas now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I've
I
had I
mean, this wasn't the case 10 years ago. We weren't hearing about stuff grow. Everyone was really spring obsessed. Things started to creep into second flush or summer teas.
mm,
But now we're getting autumn teas and they're finding ways to manipulate the leaf at that point of the year.
To make it taste good.
Of course, I'm getting some of my autumns. I'm getting first flush prices now, so
Really?
it's
Wow.
good. Yeah,
So they know that it's good quality.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had a
Things
little.
are always on the move. They're always on the move.
I had a little bit of autumnals out of the Assam Valley a number of years ago, and I just remember going like, I really need to dose this high to get even a slightly
Yeah.
similar level of
Well, that's
of
it.
flavor intensity, and it was just kind of like, I wonder if there's it just maybe it was just experience at that point. I don't know. I
Yeah.
should probably give it another shot, hey, and try
No,
some.
no,
No?
it's not necessarily experience. You may have been tasting regular, plain old autumns at the time of year when they're running out of all their attractive chemistry.
Right.
But there are ways now that we can use, especially with whole leaf tea. There are ways to draw out some magic from those leaves.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's new. It's exciting. It's happening in the last 10 years, and it's a great example of how every single region, even the most traditional regions like Hui or Longjing, they're all on the move. They're all trying new stuff. They're all gradually calibrating, recalibrating every part of their technique and things. And a lot of it is to cater to market demand as well.
Right. Makes sense.
In one decade, market demand's asking this slight flavor, and then all of a sudden, everyone's looking for something else. So they have to slightly adapt to follow that path.
It makes classicists lament too, hey? Like I feel like
Exactly.
the Zairaishus or the heirloom cultivars, and there's going to be interesting stuff that's very vibrant and the cool kid in town in terms of varieties of tea plants, and then
Very
everybody
much so.
starts planting that, and then suddenly it's you saturate. It's the whole supply and demand thing, right? And suddenly there's a lot of it, and then it's less interesting, and people move on to the next flavor of the month.
Of course.
But
It's just like the music scene,
isn't it?
It's just like the music scene. You've got the old classics that never die, and you've got something great that pops up, and then everyone tries to do the same thing for a while. And
right.
yeah, very similar.
Are there any, like, I was reading, we have a book on tea cultivars out of Japan that traces the lineage of the how the genealogy developed from cultivar to cultivar. Does something like that exist in Darjeeling? There must be. The India tea board seems so well organized.
Well, they are very well organized, but they haven't had a lot of time.
I see.
They had the first generations coming in the 1850s, 60s, 70s. A lot of that was planted as seed.
Right.
A lot of seeds were shipped over originally as a big deal that was done with the Chinese at the time,
Right.
in a short moment of good relations during that period. And so a lot of seed got up to the Himalayas that way. So they had large areas of seed plantation. Then they had what they called they call those the China plants, naturally. And then we had the China hybrids, which were the second generation coming from those plants,
Right.
either from seed, which they were doing in the beginning. Most of it was seeding.
But
And then they got into not grafting, but cuttings,
so where do these, like,
using cuttings.
Ambari Vegetative and Bannockburn and all those guys, where do they come from?
Yeah,
What
well,
is
that's a really good question, because the plants naturally are sort of coming to the end of their natural life, having been aggressively pruned 3 times a year for 150 years.
Right.
If you leave a tree plant in its natural state, as we see in the Yunnan, it can grow 1,000+ years. But if it's being continually tormented with 3 rounds of pruning, and a pruning cycle that takes it almost down to the stump every 5 years and so on, you get great flavor, but you also reduce the natural life of the tree.
Right.
So they knew that within a few decades they were going to have to replace large amounts of the gardens.
Right.
So in the 60s, 70s, they got really into creating a selection of cultivars that they could use. So they started large, and then they gradually brought it down to smaller amounts. If you go to the experimental gardens at the Toklai Institute in Jorhat in Assam, they've got large gardens full of all these experimental cultivars
Oh, that's so
that
interesting.
they started with. Yeah, it's very cool.
I would love to.
And
I always,
so,
whenever I go to Origin, I want to visit nurseries. I just love it. I love seeds. Don't get
yeah,
me wrong. Like I love ancient trees. I think that's definitely where my heart is. But there's this geeky sciencey part of me that just wants to see, what's the new.
it's all good. It's all good.
What's the
It's
new plan?
one isn't better than the other.
Yeah,
So one year my best Darjeeling is old seed plant, and the next it's going to be a young clone. Or
Yeah.
it's all good. It's all good.
That the hand rolled stuff with that they leave fairly full leaf seems to get me really excited when I'm drinking teas from Darjeeling, and I get a little bit less excited by the really large batch production. But every once in a while, I find a gem, and I'm curious though. What I drank from you during the festival, was that a big batch or was that a small batch production? Do you even remember what we drank or?
No, I don't remember at all.
Okay. I'd
I
have to
don't
look back.
remember.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful
Sure.
in this context, because a lot of the teas are produced whole leaf. They come out as great big whole leaf,
Mhm.
and then they put them through tradition. They put them through a leaf cutter.
Of course.
So you've got all the variation of a large leaf, where you have different styles of variation from one leaf to another, but even within the same leaf, you've got different levels of oxidation within the same leaf. The
Right.
stem, the central area where it's more moist, has gone a lot slower than the
Right.
exterior edge of the leaf, and so on and so on.
So
But also, to pack it small, or to put it into a tea bag,
right.
they have a leaf cutters where they cut it after the manufacturing's finished. They'll cut it down to a smaller cut. One of the benefits is it induces hard and quick
Mm-hmm.
for the more impatient side of the market.
Right.
Not everybody has 3 minutes to make the tea. A lot of them are just watching the color, waiting for it to come to the right color.
Right.
So even though some of the stuff, some of the Darjeelings that we buy, or the teas from other Indian regions as well, they look small, it's because it's a leaf that's been cut up.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I had a really interesting selection from the Rohini estate a number of years ago, and I started getting really into the estate, and they were doing a lot of just like full leaf, and you would extract and you get complete bud sets. Like it was like it wasn't cut at all, and that was just.
That's right.
And there's another one, Latumoni in Assam, that was really interesting, and it was doing a similar process, where it was like doing this idea of like, hey, why don't we keep them uncut? And when I was in Mandokoro in Japan, I actually suggested that we went and we did some hand harvesting with the farmers, and it was super fun. But I was like, why are we spending all this time on this, like, how long have they been doing it? 400 years plus in this village, okay? And they do this a style that's really unique to Mandokoro. They don't do like a careful pluck. They actually do like full on like strip the leaves off from and they keep the bushes in sort of knee height bushes, and they're all Zaidaishu. They're all seed grown. They tried planting cultivars and they just get flattened in the winter and they die. So what we asked though is, why cut them? Why, they're so beautiful, hand harvested and ready to go. And they said they do it because they've always done it. They don't. There wasn't really a time when they weren't doing that. And hold on, Sister Speaks about to join us. There we go. Okay. And hello, Sherri Anne.
Hello.
Welcome to JagaVision. I have Kevin Gascoigne here with us from Camellia Sinensis Tea House over in Montreal.
Cool. We're just not far from each other. I'm about an hour from you right now.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Awesome.
Nice to meet you, Kevin.
So Sherri Anne was just doing her live stream. Can you test your mic there, Sherri Anne? I think we lost you there. Hello, Sherri Anne? Oh.
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, I was just talking to him about, we were just talking about tea leaves and sort of how to, in Darjeeling, this idea of, he was talking about, and Kevin he does a lot of annual traveling to Darjeeling for decades, and purchasing for Camellia Sinensis, and we had a great talk about it on the tea festival when he joined us during that 24-hour live stream last year. And we were just talking about, I was telling him about in Japan when they also cut their leaves, and as I know he's well aware of, but it was interesting to have a dialogue on it, like, why do you do it? And And actually, to go a little bit further with that, so in this trip to Mandokoro, they said that they made some for me that they didn't cut, and it was really interesting because I made it and I actually really enjoyed it made the standard way that you would make a sencha when it was cut, but you definitely needed to adjust your brewing parameters to make it taste, and it makes sense, right? Less surface, less surface area, but potential for greater complexity of flavor. Adjusted it, but you know what was really interesting is that it was complex and it was good, but we found a bag that had somehow gotten tucked away in our inventory 4 years later, and Japanese senchas taste horrible in my opinion once they're at about the 18-month mark. Really, we don't sell them after 12 months, but 18 months and it's like you can really taste like a kind of a degraded umami. I'm really unhappy with them. But this one was 4 years old and it was amazing. It tasted like honey. Like I just didn't understand what was going on. I was really expecting old hay, oxidation, but it was stored well, and it aged well. And it's an heirloom cultivar and it's grown for hundreds of years in this place. And it was just it was interesting that it could age like that. It was a fascinating thing to experience. So this uncut, sort of uniquely worked with selection from Mandokoro aged really well. So.
You get to taste some of the flavor groups underneath the juicy, fresh garden flavors.
Right, and it was cool. It was really cool because normally I feel like
that's the background stuff that you can't taste most of the time. It's just the underlying framework.
Yeah, and it was really fun. Sherri Anne, if you want to pop in with any questions that you have as well, please don't hesitate. But I was gonna ask him about this tea book, but maybe you can tell our audience as well as Kevin where people can watch your shows every week, if you want to give that as a quick.
Oh yeah, sure. I have a quick question, and patreon.com/sisterspeak every Thursday at noon. It's been fun doing that. In terms of questions, I've been aching to know the answer to this question for years. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
So I don't typically like to mention other brands and put anybody on the spot. I've noticed something fascinating. Okay, so Lipton has a black tea is consistently, like almost any brand, including Lipton, is okay. Like when I'm traveling, it's okay. I don't know why, but it tastes all right. It's pretty good.
Okay.
When it comes to green tea, I'm like, is this 10 years old? I gotta be honest, I have had the worst experiences with mainstream green tea, specifically Lipton. I'm sorry, I don't mean to call them out. I just don't know what's going on. Do you think it's like what's going on there? I'm just curious what the process is to get it to taste that unpleasant.
Well, I can answer the question.
Okay.
So first of all, Lipton originally all came from Sri Lanka. They now source tea from other places a bit, but the base of what they do is Sri Lanka. So in Sri Lanka, all the gardens are planted with cultivars that are particularly rich in the tannic chemistry that we use for black tea. So they're perfect for black tea. It's just what we're looking for. You don't wither them too much. They're nice and juicy. They go really, really dark. They give you that really full-bodied, brisk cup that's good to add a little cloud of milk to, just right.
Yeah.
But when you so they're using the same plants to make green tea. But it doesn't have the right chemistry for the sort of green tea that you're looking for, because you know, Jared, and you probably tasted some good green teas before.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know, you may find it quite a nice green tea. But if you've tasted other styles of green tea from specific origins where their cultivars are just for green tea, and their manufacturing process is based around those cultivars specifically, then maybe your bar is a little too high for those teas.
There you go. Do you think they're boiled too? I wonder if the process of
a lot of the time they
use
use steamers quite a lot.
Okay, so
over there. So they use a steam process,
and that can be a little
which
bit more
again,
fragile.
which again, with a mature leaf from a black tea cultivar like they use in Sri Lanka, it's not going to really give you that delicate garden fresh vibrance that you get in say in a Japanese tea that you would get from Japan.
Which is also steamed, right? So it's definitely, or at least 95% of production is steamed, which is interesting. And there's also, I think that's something to add to that thought there, Kevin, is that perhaps, Sherri Anne, what you're experiencing is also a result of age. I
Most
think
probably too.
That the sell-through on the black teas from these larger brands is going to be a lot more extreme than what they're selling through on the greens, but they have to purchase in similar bulk volumes so that they can keep their costs under control and they can make the profits that they need to. So I think and also green teas in general, as a general rule, they get oxidized a lot faster in similar storage conditions. So even if you're being fairly careful, you're likely going to have old tea, and it's apparently, and what Kevin's saying is even if it's fresh, the cultivar might not be the ideal one for...
No, your garden to cup time could be up to 3 years because of their distribution network and warehouse storage here and there before it moves on to the next place.
And that's on a good day. It can get, you put that in a supermarket and, they get the supermarket gets it at that point, but like seriously in your cup,
but it's worth adding, I think it's worth adding that even though your flavor experience may be lower, the great benefits from the noble leaf you're still getting them.
Right. So
it's still doing you good. It's improving your day and improving your life, even if that flavor quality is a bit less than you're expecting.
So those don't go hand in hand.
Yeah, so we don't need to trash the stuff. Yeah. We don't need to talk.
Yeah,
we don't need to down talk the stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
It's good for what it is and everything. It's a noble product at the base. But,
and sometimes it's there's another truth there that it can be, especially if it's the black tea selections, it can be some of the freshest stuff on the market because new brands or people that get really excited about specialty teas, they can actually experience and we've experienced this ourselves where suddenly the movement wasn't there, especially when we started. And so then our teas were getting old and we were freaking out and we didn't know what to do. But if it was less transparent and you didn't know when it was harvested and it was all just based off expiry dates, it can be interesting. Sometimes I tell people some of the freshest tea in a supermarket can be these big brands. So, it's just being careful to know, it's great to buy from a producer who has that direct connection and can provide that transparent information. But like Kevin's saying, it's not like it's the end of the world.
And the difference for the price of the cup is very small. Right. You could drink really good tea for a very small amount.
Yeah. I mean, it depends, right? Like your 100-year-old high elevation Phoenix Mountain oolongs can get a little bit can get a little bit intense. But we just put a 1988 Menghai in the catalog. Oh, one of your selections that I felt like, okay, I just got to get these. So, some things I have from Camellia Sinensis. I have this, okay? I have a beautiful bowl from a Quebec artist that you guys sourced from for making matcha. This is not you. I also put my chasen on a stand that you have made by, so this is a bunch of Camellia Sinensis stuff that I was pretty stoked about.
That's good.
Yeah, but I also I don't have them anymore, thank goodness, I got these competition boxes, like competition grade or something, I can't remember. Those are
They look like chocolate boxes.
They were amazing.
They're really fun.
Yeah, do you still do them, or is that something you do?
Yeah, well, actually, the tea I just mentioned, the Menghai 1988, is one of those little 10-gram packs, $200.
That's awesome. Why not?
It's worth it too.
I believe it. Yeah,
it's worth it.
10 grams, $200.
Worth it. Super generous, really delicious tea.
We did a 60-year-old. It was a 60-year-old pu'er that we had for $100 a cup.
There you go. That's kind of thing.
God.
And one of our regulars would get it on his birthday every year and share it with the bar. It was quite sweet.
That's great.
No, it's fun, and it better be worth it, right? It costs us a pretty penny too. And
but it's a nice an evening to spend with friends around
Right?
something like that is great.
It's like a really nice bottle of wine or a really good cheese. Like
Yeah,
it can get pretty intense, and it's just
exactly.
it's not that money really means anything, but at the same time, there's this symbolic element to it that's kind of cool, you know. So, okay, Sherri Anne, you have something to add before I ask questions about this, or are we?
No, I'm super excited. Is this
Okay.
your book, Kevin?
Yeah, I use this a lot. So for those watching,
Cool.
there's so much cool stuff in here. It's called Tea History, Terroirs, Varieties. There's an amazing amount of literature, interviews with different people in the industry, people at auctions, farmers, tasters. It's broken up by country. They talk about the different cultivars. They talk about different production methodologies. They talk about oolong production variances in Taiwan versus China. They have a section in India that goes through. They have a catalog of different teas at the end of each section. We were talking about. We also have this bookmark, but we use this a lot when we're doing we do Friday cuppings with the team.
Yeah.
And we have this flavor wheel that's in there.
Yeah, a lot of people use that flavor wheel.
It's great. It's super
Often
fun.
without asking, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, other people publish it without asking.
Oh, that's interesting.
And put their name on it.
Oh no, and it's the
really?
same thing. Oh geez, that's crazy. So,
Oh no! They just like scratch out your name and put their own.
oh my goodness.
Put on a
gracious.
workshop.
We don't do that. We reference
It's
you
very
all the
cheeky.
time. Yeah.
It's very cheeky.
But we do. I also by the way, I really like this book. I don't know if you've read it. It's the Tea Enthusiast Handbook by the fellows.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
I got the Japanese version of this too. This is by Joseph Wesley Uhl. It's the Art and Craft of Tea. Have you read that one?
Yes, I've got that one too.
These
You
are
gave
really
me
good.
a copy, actually. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I was like,
Very nice.
that's where I learned about the Maillard reaction, and I felt like,
Okay.
where has this been all my life? And it was great. And then in your book, I just loved, you know, what really made me love it is I was always like, I wasn't super into all these different, become a tea master and go and get your certification at this tea school or that tea school, and then you'd go and I'd look at the literature and they'd be talking about, they'd say green tea and then they'd say pu'er as if pu'er was its own genre. They wouldn't understand that it's like it's part of a greater genre, or they would make I guess statements that felt really inaccurate, and there was just a lot of inaccuracies. And then when I was reading through what you were saying or what your team was saying in this book, I was like, this is great. This isn't like, most people it's like, oh, hey, tea bushes went from India to China at this time, and the camellia sinensis plant. It's like a very basic story. But what I loved about what you were doing is that it is very, I think, attractive for somebody who wants to learn about tea. But it was also really fascinating for somebody who's been into tea for a while. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was the idea, that it was good for pretty much anybody. Yeah. Whether you were starting, whether you just wanted to dip into a chapter here and there, whether you wanted to read it cover to cover as an education. That was kind of the plan, was that it could be used as a reference book or as a full read.
Right. Yeah, I have a chat person saying, I think I'll ask for the book for Christmas, perhaps a few of the books.
You've got a really old version of it. I think that's the first edition.
Is it? Oh, it's a collector. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Okay. What are some, I was actually going to ask you about that. If I bring in, I want to actually sell these books, so we want to do a renovation here at JagaSilk and have like a school element.
Just let me know.
What was the process of putting this together, and what has been the process since of keeping it current?
Well, the initial process was the four of us who'd been traveling to the source for so many years decided to put all that into a book. So we all started writing stuff. And then we had various meetings. We had a meeting once a week where we gradually started to structure it. So we decided that this chapter would follow this chapter. Each chapter would need certain elements. We sent a lot of tea into the lab, which I think is in the first edition, to test for various for caffeine, antioxidants, and so on, just to discuss that, because that's something that as tea vendors we were getting asked all the time, and we realized that the information on the internet was so random and varied and unbased in any laboratory research. So we wanted to try and put the story straight on that. Even now, you see all sorts of nonsense.
I remember starting,
it's
and I would be
sometimes.
told all Japanese tea is organic.
Exactly.
You know, people would
Exactly.
say that. I'm like,
Yeah. Or all Japanese tea is high in antioxidants, or white tea is low in caffeine, or
yeah, you know, like it's
black tea is high in caffeine, all
sure.
these kind of things. So that's why we did that section. And then for the flavor wheel, we started with an Excel sheet, and we wrote down all the various different flavor elements, and then it was gradually put together into the graphics guy put it into the wheel form.
That's very
But
cool.
yeah, so the book gradually built, but it was all based on, apart from a couple of historical passages, everything was based on our own first-hand experience traveling to source, which sort of, at the time when it first came out well, this is the first translation we did. The original was written in French.
Right. Oh.
When the first original came out in 2008, it was the first book that had been written like that. There are a few others that have been written since, but until then, everything had been based on the Yucca's 1935 tea book, which you
Interesting.
probably have on your shelf somewhere.
Maybe, maybe.
Yeah.
I try to keep
So
stuff on the tea
everything
shelf
came
that
from
I'm like
there.
that's really exciting for me.
Yeah,
Is this an
yeah.
exciting book, or is this kind of like
No, well, it was a double volume, all about tea book,
right?
which followed the history of tea and so on. But everything was based on that because people hadn't been traveling to source as much,
Right.
and this idea of traveling to source to buy the tea um, was kind of separate. This was done by other people in the industry. There were agents that did the buying, and then it was sold in. It was bought in auction, and blah blah blah. There were many
Yeah.
more people in the process, so it was kind of new at that point to be doing this buying from source thing. So, having done it for a few decades, we put all our information together and put it into this book. 2010, it was translated into English, and then which is the edition you have, I think, the 2010
I
edition.
think so. Let's.
And then when we got all the information together, we gave it to one person so that it would be put into the same
2011.
voice and the same tone.
2011.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's the first edition. It came out, it came out 2011.
You
Then
know,
it was translated into Korean, became Korean for the tea sommelier program in Korea,
very cool.
and then into Russian, and it became a bestseller in Russia,
Wow.
and then recently into Italian.
I want it in Japanese. I just want to be able to
Well,
to.
let us know. Let us know.
Yeah,
So,
it'd be amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, I wonder
yeah,
what that
that
That's
would
so
be
process would
great.
look like. You know, I
That would be
really
great.
like the section on like in China. It talks a lot about you know all the different styles of teas. And it goes again into some like really like one of the things that really blew my mind was I didn't know that the rolled teas with when they have a little bit of stem that stem is removed by hand, that there's not really a
Yeah.
machine that does that. I didn't know that. That was like really
Hmm.
like okay. And of course it's going to change our brewing parameters. We're going to
Yeah.
have to brew a little bit higher dose because that stem does
Mm.
weigh something.
Changes the weight.
It does. And so we're going to
Mm.
and we're going to have to work with it differently if it's there versus it not being
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But the
In
Japanese
fact,
section.
sometimes we buy really fine teas,
Mhm.
and we ask for the stems to be left on because we can still get really great flavor from them. And if we have it destemmed,
Mhm.
obviously you take a certain amount of the weight out, um, and the price goes up.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Is there like for the Japanese section, because of course that's where I'm going to be like super wanting to focus on. Is there any plans to talk about you know, a lot of it seems to be focused more on the, you know, like there's those big like the ochayasan or the tea companies that buy from the co-ops that buy from the farms, And a lot of the conversation ends up being about the auction process and about the then selling to those tea companies. Are there any plans to talk a little bit more about the farmers?
In following editions, we got a little bit into that.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
But more and more, I think if you take you've been in the industry for a little while, if you take yourself back to 2008 and what was going on at that point, this was the information that was relevant at that time.
Totally. No, it's a beautiful
book. Since that time, as a lot of people have got into tea and so on, now it's much more current to talk about cultivars and so on and so on. So obviously we've had to gradually upgrade and update. So
I love that. And that was my other question, is how do you keep it current, right? Like, what is the process of,
that's it.
Especially being so busy and doing all these other projects?
We kind of follow we follow the publishers basically at this point, because they're the ones that print and sell it. So then there's a point where we're coming up to a reprint, and they ask us if we want to make some changes or updates or upgrades. And so we always do. We always go through again with a fine-tooth comb, and we find stuff like, did we really say that? Or, this is no longer true, we better change that kind of thing.
I always tell people that you just do the best with what you have at the time, and when you learn new information, you just embrace it, and you just, you got to be okay with that process. That's part of the learning process, right?
Exactly. But at the same time, we're limited with a one-volume book as to how deep you can go. Obviously, the idea of this book was to be an entry level that was interesting for anybody from a beginner to an expert. But there's only so much you can put in the book. Our original plan was to then have a more specialized book on pu'er teas, or H teas, and then another one on green teas, another one on black teas, and so on.
These books.
Yes, I know. It sounds good.
It sounds very challenging.
We wrote one on. We started with green tea.
Yeah.
And it was a complete flop.
Oh no.
It won World's Best Tea Book in Paris, and then the sales it just never sold.
Oh no.
So, and we already had a pu'er book ready to go, and we just decided not to publish it in the end because it's just a question.
How do I get this green tea book? Can I get the green tea book?
I would like to purchase it too.
Yes.
Okay.
It's on the site.
It's on the site. Okay, I'm gonna get the
great little book.
Okay, I'm stoked. I didn't know it existed. See, like
I know,
people talk about this one all the time, and
but even like on this show, we're talking to a very, very specialized audience, and the critical mass that you need to get a book up and running, unless you're self-publishing, which is a whole other thing which we didn't have the time to get into. I have friends that are self-publishing, and that's working, and it's great for them, and it's good. But we didn't have the time to do all that, so
you could do the
regular publishers,
the print to order things they do on the web these days.
Yeah, but even then, we decided not to go with that.
A lot of work, and
so
you gotta see the return on the time investment as well.
Yeah, we had a beautiful pu'er book with guest writers and all sorts of stuff all ready to go. But,
well, how do we make that happen? Should there be
it
some
just
sort of
sat on the back burner for
what about a Kickstarter? Then you could have it pre-sold before it goes. You just do a Kickstarter campaign, and then people are like, they're gonna do it, and then you just do the one run. You just build it up, and then it's sold in advance, and then bam,
All right.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Jared,
no risk.
You set it up.
Yeah.
You set it up, and I'll give you the text.
Okay. The pu'er book. I'm into this. Okay, I'll talk.
I'm not doing it.
I'll talk to some folks. Okay, I'll be like,
I'm not going to do it.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
There's only so many things you can do with your time, and our time's eaten up with buying and selling tea, and now making tea
and podcasts. Sherri Anne, you had a point to make there.
Oh, I think it's similar with music. Like if you have like a label, you have a publisher, like everything gets out there a lot more. And if you're doing it independently, it's it does take a certain amount of interest, and sometimes it's like just timing and like some things that I thought were like, okay, this is ready, and like just for whatever reason didn't take to, a general thing, but then something that I thought wouldn't be like people were all in or something. It's just so hard to predict, even with certain songs and certain albums. And
makes sense.
I like the shows here. This is kind of like I have this I'm like almost stuttering. The Patreon is like really like a small group. I'm just totally like more transparent, more myself, and like than I am on my public social medias. I'm a little more private when it comes to Facebook and Instagram. And it's a really small group that tunes in every week. And I like it that way for that specific thing. I actually wouldn't want it to be this big thing. So there's certain things I think that are almost more fun that are like really small.
That's interesting.
And there's other things that like really require a larger audience for it to feel sustainable and inspiring in terms of time usage.
Yeah. But if you talk to anybody that's publishing tea books, there are a few tea books on the market that are have sold in bestseller quantities for tea books, which is nothing compared to real bestseller numbers.
Right.
But and ours would be on that. This book would be in that category. It's it's one of the best-selling tea books. It won World's Best Tea Book a few times, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And Firefly Publishers as well.
Yeah. But it's really, as soon as you start specializing, your market decreases, and you end up with very small numbers, a very small audience of and you might be able to sell it. But imagine trying to sell 1,000 copies.
Right.
1,000 copies is quite a lot in our world. So you've got to choose your battles, I think.
That makes sense. Have you ever considered something like a Green Mile kind of like releasing articles, or like kind of like on a subscription system?
Yeah, we did. Well, we released quite a few of the passages from the Pu'er book that we wrote in our blog.
Okay, so it's not like
and
that.
Even there,
yeah.
And then we watched how many people were reading it, and it was quite small.
Oh no! Oh.
Drop it on there tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the powers of
our enthusiasm isn't shared with that many people, Jared.
Okay. Oh, that's funny.
Not the level. Not the level.
That's apparent. Yeah. So what was I gonna say? Because I have a big interest in doing some sort of book on matcha. I think it would just be so much fun. I think part of what interested me about this book is what brought it to the fore, and to hear that story has been really interesting. Like, you must it almost feels like it would be great if you could just have a place to have the information written out, because it'll help you understand it as well. Like like you have it, you talk about it a lot, maybe at seminars or in training sessions or in cuppings and stuff, and to have it laid out and to just sort of look at it for a bit, and also research, like you were saying, stuff that you thought was true, maybe not anymore, or stuff that you or maybe it was very true but isn't very well known, and to also go in and find some evidence to back it up, and to share some of what you learn from people, etc. It's just such an interesting process.
Well, if you want to do a matcha book, certainly matcha's very popular at the moment. But I would say if you want it to be a big seller, matcha for health and matcha latte recipes would be a way to sell that book. Yeah.
I know the
and
best
you'll have
way.
to sneak the cultivar section in the back.
In the back.
But the thing that you have to do is you have to do 10 pages on matcha lattes with goat's milk if you really don't want to sell it. That's I love goat's milk. But nobody else does.
Advice on how to do badly. Okay, all right. Written down, noted. Okay, awesome.
But the goat milk lattes have to be at the very, very back.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to definitely catch up with you, Kevin, and talk to you about a little bit more detail on.
Yes, I'm not trying to put you off.
No. I'm not taking it that way. I just noticed the time, and I'm 4 minutes away from us all turning into pumpkins, and I just wanted to get these last ideas out. So I'm really interested in the new version. I was wondering if you had some sort of process. Is it just the people who originally wrote it, who you're learning and you're processing it, or is there some sort of like if somebody reads the book that's watching that maybe wants to ask for clarification on some parts or had some suggestions for ideas, etc. Obviously, you probably have a million ideas and you're just cutting.
Yeah, we have a little bit. You have to keep in mind, like I'm talking about this question of how specialized you can go in a book of this style.
For sure. You mean this? We should just make.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a book.
Bigger,
Yes, exactly. We could do a book that size just on Darjeeling tea or just on matcha tea.
Yeah.
We could do that. But the amount of effort you put into it versus the amount of people that are going to read it at the end is not necessarily making it worthwhile way of spending the time.
I hope you can try again, though. I hope in 10 years that's no longer true.
Maybe we'll try again.
You know, that you're going to hit 10 years, the market will be ready for it, and they'll be like, oh, yeah, that book on green tea.
Well, it's certainly moving that way.
I think so.
Moving that way.
The knowledge, the hunger for knowledge. I wonder how much of that is just like, a really great marketing campaign and the right moment and the right time and the right people and the right exposure.
Well, you've noticed with the teas that you sell already, even in the last 5 years, we can sell better and better tea, more high quality tea, more specialized tea.
100%.
Our clientele has more specialized knowledge. I mean, it's normal. It's a compound buildup of general tea knowledge that's going on. So
it's amazing. I have people coming in and
asking
me about cultivars, and
exactly.
It's great because I didn't.
5 years ago, that wasn't happening.
It wasn't.
So no.
Yeah. Well, when you do have this tea, I know we couldn't drink it together today because you weren't able to make it to. I forgot to mention this to you, Sherri Anne, but Kevin wasn't able to make it to his tea equipment today. But when you do make it, I know you probably have your own methods for preparing it. But I would love you to try it both the way that you normally have it, and if you want to give it a go the way that we really enjoy it, that would be cool too. And I'd really love to get your thoughts on it. And the big thing is, I got really inspired by specialty coffee and this fascination with accurate dosing of both tea and water by using a 0.1 gram scale. And it'd just be really interesting to me if you were.
I'll follow you gave me the specific ratio, so I'll do that.
Awesome. And then when you're whisking it, we do have a video. I know you, of course, you've been in this industry for decades, but if you want our perspective, we did this I think they did a really good job. This local company came in and helped us film a video on how we make traditional matcha at JagaSilk, and it's just kind of interesting. You could
I'll check it out.
Check it out. Maybe I'll send you a link, and would love your feedback on it.
That would be great.
And
yes, that would be great.
And then maybe we can talk about having you on the show that I'm a part of the Tea Appreciation Society in November 13th. I'll send you some details, and we'll wait for you to see if you can talk about that tea studio, because I'm super stoked to learn more about
let me know.
Let
me know. I'd be happy to come and talk about that.
Sure, Andy. They actually invite tea makers from all over the world to a studio that they built in India, and they make teas there and come up with creative new teas, and it's this collaborative, creative, amazing space.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Very exciting.
Wow.
And amazing tea equipment, as far as I understand, as well. Some of the best stuff you can get.
Yeah.
So. Super excited. So any final thoughts, Kevin, before we go? And can you tell our viewers where they can find Camellia sinensis online?
Well, we have our website, which is Camellia with 2 L's -sinensis.com. We're quite easy to find. You can find the book on there, and there's all sorts of stuff, blogs, and all our beautiful catalogue of teas and so on. So you can find us there. If you wanted to drop me a line, just drop it to the info line. I'll get that. I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody watching has questions.
Wonderful. Sherri Anne, do you have any final thoughts or questions at the end here? And also, if you could let people know where they can find your music online.
Oh, I'm just really excited. Thanks so much, both of you. Thanks, Kevin, for making that book. I'm so happy that's out there, all your books. And just a side note, totally random. I got a chaga mushroom at the farmer's market, and you cook it on the back of the stove for like 4 hours, and I cook it in this Italian bowl on like low. And I've been mixing it with my matcha in the morning, and it's really it goes really well together. I'm making it right now. It's just in this little bowl. You can put on this Italian bowls you can put on the stove. So.
Amazing. That sounds
just a random
very medicinal.
thing.
Is it delicious?
It's great because it's like the matcha with that and a little bit of, I'll make it into a little bit of a latte. And I'm loving the matcha just plain right now too. But yeah, just a side note, the farmers markets out here, there's lots of different types of mushrooms, but the chaga mushroom, you just cook it forever and it just starts dissolving and it looks like
it tastes really nice in kombucha too, actually, randomly. And
really?
I find there seems to be some sort of flavor dynamic characteristics it shares with a good pu'er, randomly enough.
Yeah,
it's earthy.
What was that, Kevin?
Earthy and rooty. It's earthy and rooty, like undergrowth.
Yeah, it's got that forest-like quality to it. Cool.
Forest taste.
Okay, well, thank you, Sherri Anne. And I'm sure people watching can experiment with that for sure. And I hope they can also get Kevin and the team at Camellia Sinensis tea book. Really appreciate you both coming on the chat with me today. It's always lovely to have these conversations. They're very kind of make actually a very meaningful part of my week, and we're on episode 77, so it's 77 times we've done this, and I've been learning so much. I feel like it's like a little school for me. As selfish as that sounds, I learned so much. If this is maybe the niche of the niche of the niche, but every once in a while we get a good viewership that seems to build over time, and I think there's so many gems, and this has definitely been a gem of a conversation.
Well, we get to have fun and drink tea together.
Totally, so great excuse.
That's enough.
In a pandemic too.
Exactly.
Lovely to have you on the show, Kevin, Sherri Anne. I wish you a wonderful day, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye, guys.
Bye now.
Okay, so that was Sherri Anne of Sister Speak joining us there for the last part of the call, and then we had Kevin Gascoigne from Camellia Sinensis. Had a really lovely time talking about his tea book. So I was really interested in understanding how that process came together, the formulation of it, how they keep it current. Really good chance to go over all of that stuff. So you can go find them at camellia-sinensis.com. I hope to carry them here in the shop as well, the books. I think they're really a great place to learn some really great tea knowledge. And we were planning on drinking a matcha together today, but last minute didn't work out, so that's just how it goes. But like I mentioned to Kevin, if you want to go onto our YouTube website, we have a new video on how we make traditional matcha, kind of a rehash of a video we've had up for 7 or 8 years there. Give it a look and tell us what you think. If you are watching this show for the first time, you're on Twitch, you're on Facebook, you can go over to our youtube.com/JagaSilk. That's where we archive all these episodes. You can go look at old ones. You can sign up and subscribe. You can click on the notification button, and you'll get a little bell that will tell you when we go live. And it's every Thursday, 1 o'clock. Looking forward to having you back on watching next week. Please feel free to ask questions in the chat. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jared Nyberg, JagaSilk. Check us out, jagasilk.com. And a final piece of information, November 13th, noon until midnight, I am the co-director of the International Tea Appreciation Society, and the Society is putting on the online Victoria Tea Festival Revival. It's going to be its 8th year, the second year being online. The rest of the time it's been here in Victoria. We're going to have great sessions. We're going to be talking about Indigenous tea harvesting and the ethics of harvesting tea on unceded territories. We're going to be talking about tea firing and roasting tea. We're going to be talking about ancient tea collections. We'll be talking about there's a company that harvests their own wild rice. They're like a Cree community, I think, Algonquin. I should have my notes with me. What am I doing? I know they're over in the East Coast there, and they're making a genmaicha, which is pretty exciting. And then we are going to have Raven and Hummingbird, T-Horse, O5T. We're going to have Cloudwalker. We're going to have JagaSilk. It looks like we might be able to get Camellia sinensis to join us again. They joined us last year. We're going to have Yamaguchi-san live from Japan. We have the Wazuka Teatopia. It's like a tea festival community in Kyoto that's going to be joining us live from Japan. And it's just going to be so much fun. So I really hope that everybody can check it out. You can go to Victoria Tea Fest on Twitch and on YouTube and find us there. It's the International Tea Appreciation Society. You can look us up on the internet and go to the webpage and check stuff out there. Looking forward to seeing you all there. And I'll see you again next week, and I will see you there. Take care. Goodbye.